I haven't got time to mark this motherfucker. Here we go again. We can't hear anybody. Nobody can talk to anybody.
You guessed it, Pressure Points with your two favorite hosts. I'm D, and this is maybe AJ. We're coming at you with Season 7, Episode 3, the Korean Gettysburg. I had a really good line here about the Korean War, but just like the Korean War, I already forgot about it. So find us on Instagram and Patreon at pointsopressure.com. Let's get to it.
Well, turn the fucking thing off, you dumbass.
Perfect.
Mint.
Perfect. Again, another early recorded episode.
Yeah, earlier than usual.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting there. It's because I think we've both valued and realized that when we record late, that the entire day feels like it was dedicated to the episode.
Yeah, 100%. So I do want to start off by recognizing our new chairperson.
Oh, I haven't even checked our fucking email. I've been watching my own emails like the last 2 weeks.
So Thomas, welcome. Welcome to the board.
Welcome.
Anytime you need your foot rubbed.
Yeah.
Your toes sucked.
Yeah, your ear holes cleaned out. We got you.
We got you.
Yeah.
So how you been?
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You had a good. I don't know if you want to talk about work stuff, but.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see.
It's fuck my current job.
No,
whatever.
I'm saying the good stuff.
Oh, the good stuff.
Got a second interview.
Yeah, I had an interview this week and went pretty well. I mean, it was really uncomfortable. She was like a fucking robot, and it was terrible, but it went well enough.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, I know AJ," and then she completely fucked up how she knew you, and I was like, "No, he hasn't worked at this job for 5 years. I know.
It's like, 5 years ago.
Yeah,
100%. He worked in the cafeteria, right?
Yeah, and I was like,
I'm like,
yeah. I was like, I'm just gonna agree. I don't give a shit. But yeah, that sounds like him. Yeah. But yeah, she was terrible. But apparently it went well enough, and I've got an interview early tomorrow morning. So
yeah, they made me sign some referral paperwork.
Fingers crossed.
So you might be getting some cash. I don't know if it goes to me or you or both or.
I mean, even if not, I don't care. I'd much rather just have the fucking. Position.
But they also said, hey, I need this in, so that you get credit when he's hired. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay,
so I'm gonna say maybe they were just like
fingers crossed. Unless I absolutely fuck it up tomorrow,
I think you have a good chance. So.
Yeah. So this week. It's been stressful because they pushed the interview back initially, and I was like,
no,
I just want to get it done. I just want to be finished.
Oh.
So that's why I set it for early Monday morning, so that I hopefully get an offer quickly, and I can just
slacking.
Tell my job to suck it for the next week.
Yeah, see if they'll offer you severance.
They might, because of how much shit I have, 2 fucking monitors, a laptop, like that little Dell dock.
Mm-hmm.
They gave me so much shit, and I'm like, what? You're not gonna fucking pay me to give it back to you? I don't know. Because that's how a ton of different places handle it. Is that they're like, give it back to us, and we'll give you money.
Yeah, we'll release the severance or whatever.
Yeah, I would like to keep that Dell dock though.
I know, those are nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now I'm using a $16 Amazon USB dongle that has an extra HDMI input.
Oh, no.
So that's my second screen.
Oh, God.
It's kind of rough.
Yeah.
It's a little rough, but...
A little jank.
It's pretty jank. But, no, it's good. Not a horrible week. Passed the NCLEX, so that's good.
Had your graduation
Had my
ceremony.
Graduation.
You got a D kiss on the cheek, and I
did.
have photo evidence of
Do
it
you?
now.
I was wondering who has that photo, because I don't.
No,
Nobody sent it to me.
Yeah, it was your father. He took it.
He didn't send it to me.
He took it, and that night I messaged him on Instagram, and I was like, hey, send me that picture.
I need
and he
that
was like,
picture.
okay. He sent it, and I was like, I can't save it. Can you send it to me on Snapchat? He's like, yeah, for sure. And I go, hey, this is your son's downstairs neighbor. Can you send me that picture on Snapchat of me kissing your son?
That's great.
But yeah, so
I need that.
I have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to print it out huge.
You should print it out. We'll make little stickers.
No, we'll blow it up and we'll put it over that the Russian painting of those two politicians kissing.
Yeah. We'll do it. We'll do it in that style. Yeah. All right. Well, I suppose we should get into it since we're on a little bit of a time constraint.
Yeah.
But we're talking about the Korean War, which, as everybody knows, nobody knows anything about, really.
Yeah, as everybody knows, they forget about it.
So I'm going to give you a little bit of background to provide a lot of context for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in my research, I don't know why the fuck this isn't remembered more. Like, just to... This was one of... towards the end, but just to put it in perspective, proportionally, this war had more civilian deaths than either Vietnam or World War II.
Which is wild, because what isn't... This is how fucked the Korean War is, and how it's taught. Is it the Korean or the Vietnam War that's considered the forgotten war? Is it the
Korean War, yeah.
Okay.
Because nobody remembers it.
Yeah,
Everybody remembers Vietnam.
But I don't even fucking remember which one was the forgotten war.
Yeah. So, first off, watch MASH all the way through.
I do need to watch it.
It is so fucking good. At the beginning...
I'm on the last season of Malcolm in the Middle.
So okay. Oh, good. So then get to MASH. Yeah. So you got the early show, like the first half, is more campy, more goofy, more of a comedy based on the movie.
Then they get more like visceral and realistic with it, right?
Alan Alda, the main character, got more into the writing and the production of the show. And it gets pretty serious. Like, they still have comedy they have to have the comedic relief,
like a dark
but
comedy.
It gets fucking serious, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
it has one of the best. I mean, I think it is still the most watched last episode of any TV show ever.
What's it on?
Great question. I think Hulu.
Okay, cool.
Which my wife can hook you up if you need an account.
No, I have one. We're
okay,
good.
Perfect. So watch MASH first off, because it's amazing. It really is good. They were really advanced. They were very progressive for the time that this was being written. And this is, like, it starts off as, we're going to do a comedy show about the Korean War right at the beginning of the Vietnam War. And then the Vietnam War gets fucking serious, and all the shit that's happening kind of gets revealed to the American populace. And then the show kind of follows that, where it's basically a metaphor for showing, there's a lot of metaphor between the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and shown in MASH.
Damn.
Really good. So June 1950 to July 1953. It lasted for 3 years. The U.S. divided Korea along the 38th parallel after World War II, since it was a Japanese colony. Just like East and West Germany, the Soviets took one side, the Americans took the other. So by 1948, though, there was a lot of tension. The Cold War is basically ramping up. So the divided areas become their own countries. One is obviously communist, and one is very capitalist.
Yeah.
Immediately, border disputes between both sides start to happen because, it's just arbitrary line that the Americans set up, as far as I know. And so there were these little land disputes, border disputes, and eventually, and the North supported an insurgency in the South, which it doesn't look good. The UN tried to go through like reunification, but the indoctrination on both sides was so strong that they were just like, no, we're mortal enemies, despite the fact that we were a united colony less than 10 years ago.
Yeah, for real.
Like, it was crazy.
That's wild.
The North...
It's pretty crazy what fucking propaganda will do.
Yeah, in such a short amount of time. So the North invaded the South June 25th, 1950. The UN got together, and there was nobody to really speak on behalf of the North, because at the time the Soviets were in the UN, but they were boycotting them because the UN recognized Taiwan as part of China, which that's still an ongoing issue to this day.
God damn.
So nobody backed up North Korea at all. So it was basically a unanimous vote to send a UN army to support the South Koreans.
Okay.
The army was made up of troops from 21 different countries, but 90% of the military came from the U.S. Okay, so we're getting there. By October of that year, Chinese troops entered into North Korea and started supporting the North. But, you know, if the Chinese were to just go into this country and start actively supporting against the UN, that very quickly could lead to a world war.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the Chinese army.
And imagine within 10 years of
exactly
World War II, that would be fucking crazy.
Where the U.S. still has most of the nukes.
Yeah.
So the Chinese, to get around this idea, the politics of it, they create a volunteer army where their soldiers are allowed to volunteer to go into North Korea. Obviously, this is, you know, we know what China was like in the 50s.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were very...
join, we promise.
We promise.
Yeah, you either starve at home or you fucking go die on the front lines.
Yeah, so that's kind of how they got around it. And if you are thinking of the Vietnam War, there's already a lot of similarities here where it's like, oh no, it's not this team fighting the U.S. It's not the Soviets fighting the U.S. or the Chinese fighting the U.S. It's Chinese troops supporting the North Koreans, or Soviet troops supporting the North Vietnamese,
I see.
And the U.S. troops are the UN troops. You see how it's a dumb proxy?
Yeah, it's a big time
so
proxy
stupid.
war. I didn't realize that it got like that in depth.
Yeah, stupidly.
Imagine being a high school teacher and having to explain
yeah,
that.
I see why they
to
didn't.
a bunch of kids that only give a fuck about a letter.
Yeah, so eventually later on the Soviets ended up supporting the North with air support, but again it was just like, oh, we aren't doing the war, we're just supporting them.
Yeah, Jesus.
And the war followed this kind of slingshotting pattern where the North invaded the South and got almost all the way to the ocean on the south of the country, and then they went and pushed them almost up to the Chinese border, and it just kind of slingshotted back and forth until it kind of settled back around that 38th parallel. And every major city in the country was destroyed, North and South Korea.
Really?
North Korea still is one of the most heavily bombed countries ever. Thousands of civilian massacres occurred by both sides. The South was like, well, we're going to execute the communist sympathizers. The North were like, oh, you're a capitalist? I'm going to torture you in a gulag.
Yeah, fuck.
So really, the civilian death toll was ridiculous. And again, as I said, proportionally higher than the previous war and the next war. Like, it was crazy. And overall, 3 million deaths. Almost half of those were civilians in the course of within 3 years.
Damn.
Crazy. So understanding that, Korean War is happening. Mm-hmm. The Chinese have just entered the war, and the UN forces are kind of shitting bricks.
Fair.
They don't know the Chinese capability, the Chinese army capability. They don't know how they're set up. They don't know what machines they have, what their capabilities are.
Yeah.
So just to be safe, the idea was, okay, everybody, South Vietnamese, UN forces, let's retreat to the 38th parallel. So enter Lieutenant General Matthew Ridgway. He had this idea that we're giving them so much momentum that they're just crushing through.
It's just that snowball effect.
Yeah, they're snowballing. They're able to set up supply lines.
Yeah.
We need to stop them somewhere. But because they're just going to keep,
hold the line.
Yeah, pretty much. So his idea was we need to make a stand somewhere to slow down their momentum and allow for a counterattack. Mm-hmm. And he figured at this point, because they just, advanced along all of North Korea, this is the best time to do it because their supply lines probably weren't super well established yet. And they might have been stretched thin.
This is just like a year into the war, right? How many?
This is pretty early in the war.
This is months in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it started June 1950.
This is October?
Officially happens. They enter October, And the event that I'm going to be talking about specifically happens in February.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So it's like 6 months in or something.
Yeah, not even a year. Jesus.
Yeah. So, Lieutenant General Ridgway says, we're going to make a stand right here at this place called Chipyong-ni. That was better than I thought I was going to do.
Hey,
so
impressive. You did it without a German accent. So
I did, so that's good. So he had the 23rd Regimental Combat Team under the command of Paul Freeman set up a tight perimeter because they don't have, the entire U.S. military might at this time period at their disposal. Mm-hmm. It's a very small group compared to what the capabilities of the U.S. So they set up this tight perimeter. They have some artillery. They have, I think, one tank, maybe a couple tanks. Only one is ever really mentioned. And 3 battalions. And one of them is French.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Yeah.
So they have 2 battalions.
So they have 2 battalions.
A tank and 2.5 men.
Yeah. They also have the 1st Ranger Company and an artillery/anti-aircraft battalion and a couple engineers and a platoon from the 2nd Medical Battalion. All in all, 4,500 dudes, 2,500 infantry total. Or 4,500 total. Okay. 2,500 of those being infantry. And they're setting up this perimeter. They're setting up these big defensive structures because they have the engineers, so they're able to, set up these walls and not like huge walls, sandbags and dig some trenches and really do the math to figure out how to defend themselves well. So as they're digging themselves in, they realize they're now behind enemy lines.
Oh, Jesus.
They were completely cut off.
They were setting up so hard that they just they just walk past.
Yeah.
Hey, good work here.
Hey, we're just going to be outside of your range a little bit. We'll come back for you later. So, they don't have supply lines anymore,
yeah,
which isn't great.
Cut off.
Completely cut off.
Oh, no.
And by the time February runs around, they've been able to set up for like a month, I think, if not a little bit more. Also, remember, this is winter, so it's like 0 degrees there. And they're sending out some patrols and stuff like that, and February 13th happens.
Are they not getting, any fucking... Is no one reaching out to them because they don't know that they're there? Do they think they're just dead?
No, they're just doing the plan. It happened very quickly. And
fair.
Yeah, an ongoing issue here for both sides was communication.
Yeah.
So a patrol finds that there are a ton of Chinese troops in the area, February 13th in the morning. And they go back and they're like, hey, Freeman, Commander Freeman, we gotta leave.
Where are you guys' blue helmets?
We are surrounded by, I think it ended up being like 8 battalions of Chinese troops, something crazy.
Jesus.
So they were like, okay, we need to leave. Mm-hmm. Ridgway says, nah, hold the area. Because he just got off a phone call with his boss.
Yeah, talking himself up.
Douglas MacArthur.
Oh,
and Douglas MacArthur is like, no, hold the line.
Yeah.
Because, it's Douglas fucking MacArthur. So
God.
They say, oh, shit. Yeah, it turns out it's almost 20,000 Chinese troops are in the area.
Fuck.
So they're kind of...
This is bad news bears.
And as I said, a little bit of communication errors
just tiny,
in
just tiny
within those
error.
Chinese troops as well.
It was just one of maybe the most important letters that they maybe forgot to say.
It turns out I think 2 or 3 of the Chinese battalions got lost somewhere. So while there's 20,000 in the area, they're not all converging at this point. There's kind of some fuck-ups, which is good.
Yeah.
So the UN troops start just launching artillery to make it so the Chinese troops can't advance. They can't get close enough because their main thing, the Chinese troops' main thing at this point is small arms fire. They had SKSs, and they had pistols, and they had grenades. The artillery wasn't quite, and the mortars weren't quite caught up with them yet.
Oh, okay.
So they're just launching artillery just to fend them off for that whole day. And as evening fell, obviously this is just post-World War II. They don't have the optics that we have nowadays. So they don't really do as much artillery at night.
Yeah.
So
just kind of hunker down and watch the tree line.
So exactly, it's watching that tree line. So 10 to 11 p.m., the Chinese do this massive assault. Northern perimeter is hit the hardest, but the northwest and the southeast are also hit. So they're just all over the place. And they're able to kind of fend them off, push them back, not take too many casualties. And then the northern group, which was Company C, was just shit on by artillery. The artillery caught up and just were like, because they were coming from the north. Yeah. So there's like, oh, that's the easiest target. Start launching that shit. Yeah. So they get barraged pretty much all night. And then, the quiet fell. The artillery stops. And the Chinese attacked all positions. Literally the entire perimeter is just... except for the east. They weren't east. I don't know why. And there was fighting up until midnight.
Okay.
By midnight, they were so well entrenched, they didn't lose any ground. And the Chinese retreated till 2 a.m., where the Chinese were probably like, hold on, I see French flags.
Yeah, wait a minute.
They do a concentrated attack of the French battalion in the west. And the Chinese troops actually got within 200 yards of the line.
Damn.
Before the French panicked and just started throwing grenades. They stopped shooting and just started throwing grenades. I mean, I'm sure they were still shooting, but they started lobbing these motherfuckers.
My God.
And it worked. They were like,
Really?
there's so many grenades that the Chinese retreated.
God.
By 2:30, another attack almost overtook part of the perimeter, but Commander Freeman was smart. He kept that tank in reserve. So he's like, "Oh, hey, we're about to fall back." A tank shows up.
Yeah.
And the Chinese troops retreat. They have small arms. They can't do anything against a tank at this point.
I want to know whose idea was to just give the French like 7,000
grenades, right? It worked. So they were probably just throwing empty wine bottles.
Yeah. Making their own fucking Molotovs.
Yeah. So
damn.
Yeah, again, the French were attacked, and the 23rd Regiment were attacked at 7:30, or the 23rd Regiment at 7, or the French at 7:30, sorry, the 23rd Regiment at 6:30, but no ground was really gained or lost, and the Chinese kind of retreated and regrouped, because they're also thinking, we're missing like a huge chunk of our dudes, what's happening?
God.
So, Valentine's Day, February 14th, rolls around. Technically, it's already been around, because what I was talking about was 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
But the sun comes up, and at this point, the commander had been hit in the leg by mortar, but didn't take himself out of command, just was like, I'll just limp, whatever, because we're probably going to die here anyway. And overnight...
Somebody give me a walking stick.
Yeah, give me a stave, a staff. So they did some, they ran the numbers. Obviously, nobody is able to sleep over the entire course of this event, but they take about 100 casualties, which is not bad, but it's a defensive thing that they're doing, so they're able to just be holed up.
Not bad, but considering like how much they were outnumbered, that's impressive.
It's pretty good. And the amount of attacks. So the U.S. Air Force started sending air support, and that kind of kept the Chinese troops at bay for the day. But the ground troops were starting to run out of ammo and supplies pretty quickly.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, so I don't know why, but they didn't really send any supplies during the day. Not much made it there. At dusk, the entire perimeter was just lit up by artillery and mortar fire. Just everywhere, all around this circle. And that happened until about 1:30 in the morning.
Fuck that.
At 1:30, they were pretty much out of ammo. The entire perimeter.
Okay, at least I get to sleep tonight.
Dirt nap. So the Air Force starts dropping these supplies, but what happens in Tarkov when there's a supply box?
Oh, it's loud as fuck.
Yeah, you go, you open it, and you get shot.
Yeah.
The Chinese were camping the supply boxes. The ones that, because most of them were not accurate enough to actually land within the perimeter. Yeah. They got some.
Well, and I would imagine you're either doing like low flyovers and dropping the supply box, which is everyone can see where it was dropped, or you're doing really high flyovers and dropping it, and everyone can see where it's being fucking dropped.
Yeah. So Yeah, they start getting camped, basically, at these supply drops. And the Air Force says, oh, maybe that wasn't very good of us. And they start dropping flares from the planes just at the tree lines.
Oh,
so that
okay.
it was
So they can see
completely
'em,
lit
yeah.
up so they could see them. And by 2:30 in the morning, I Company was overrun and the perimeter was breached for the first time.
Uh-oh.
But L Company and M Company, who happened to have a bunch of machine guns, were able to just kind of fill in, repel the
Oh,
attack, and they
okay.
set up a bunch of machine guns and said, fuck you guys.
Yeah. Jesus.
The southern perimeter was stomped on until about 3:15 in the morning, where the Chinese broke through and forced a retreat out of those fortified positions in the south.
Damn.
Which is really bad, because basically that's it. They don't have another line to fall back to.
Yeah.
But as the sun starts to come up, those Ranger troops, they were in reserve for these last 2 days. So they were able to come back down to the south, and pretty much everybody who possibly could be spared was sent to do a counterattack.
Jesus.
It immediately became hand-to-hand combat.
What?
Yeah, immediately people were like, they shot twice and then
Stab
hand to
one
hand.
person.
Yeah. And and it became hand-to-hand combat. The counterattack failed. They hit heavy casualties, but they kept fighting until 6:15 in the morning.
Man, like, I feel like war, I mean, I don't feel like, I know that war is just like a PTSD hellscape.
Yeah.
But, like, having to go hand-to-hand combat in war it's got to be so much
yeah.
worse. Like,
So much
killing
more.
I would imagine that shooting someone from, like,
Far away.
100 yards away, a lot more...
It's easier to
like,
deal with
yeah,
mentally,
yeah,
I would think.
than having to, like,
Stab someone in
hold
the
off
gut.
a knife while also stabbing
Baseball
somebody.
bat swing with your gun. Like,
God,
Yeah.
dude.
so it's a bloodbath. And by noon, so a couple hours
Jesus.
later, another counterattack was attempted. But the Chinese were like, hey, we have machine guns too. Let's just set them up next to this wide open area. So they just get gunned down in the counterattack.
Oh, no.
By 2 p.m., all of a sudden, the Chinese forces began to retreat from that position because the Air Force started napalming them.
Oh,
They
fuck.
start dropping hundreds of napalm bombs on the Chinese position. So they start, doing what anybody would do and saying, "I'm not getting burned alive.
Yeah.
Bye." And they start retreating a bit.
Fuck.
And by 3:45, word was sent to Task Force Crombez.
What
They
the
were.
fuck?
It was a task force that was set up at basically a town south of them, down the road, a couple miles away, who was only allowed to go and help them if they were like
Oh, it was like last
ditch effort. So they got the word to move out.
My guess is they were probably like in that town to hold the town,
Pretty much, yeah.
and it's like, wow.
So it's like, don't leave unless you absolutely have to,
Yeah.
because it's leaving a hole in the line.
Yeah.
So they get the word, hey, move out, because it's going bad, even with the napalm. And as the Chinese are kind of retreating, Company B kind of moves up and starts to fuck with them a bit. And the napalm cuts the Chinese forces in the south in half.
I would imagine.
casualties,
I would
yeah.
imagine so.
Horrible. Like, what a terrible way. I can't even imagine how horrible that is. So as they're now running away because of, the fire bombs, they see off in the distance about 20 tanks rolling towards them with infantry behind them. And the Chinese say, "Oh, fuck this."
Yeah.
And they booked it away. And,
Yeah,
and
burned
the attack
alive
stopped.
or blown up? Which one?
Yeah,
Like, take
what's
your
the
pick.
thing? So
Not burned alive. Sorry, melted.
melted, completely
Fucking
melted.
melted.
The fire sticks to you,
Or blown up.
and it completely stops the Chinese advance. It's a successful thing, barely,
Yeah.
and really, it's just because they were behind enemy lines, that they were even able to get the southern,
Fucking,
foothold
yeah.
in there. So the first commander, the Ridgway, he was, I don't know if he was at that town that they were holed up in, but he was like getting the reports because, he was the middle management guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or above Freeman. So Freeman was like saying, "We're fucked."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Okay, all right, fine."
He's just sitting back at his desk with his feet up.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, looks like MacArthur says you got to stay.
Yeah.
Sorry, boys, hold the line.
So it turns out
You're breaking up." Click.
Yeah, it's breaking up. So it turns out that the Chinese thought there were only about 1,000 troops there, so they underestimated them.
Yeah.
They also didn't know that they had any type of air force or air support at all. The Chinese at this time, the Soviets weren't involved yet very much, so they didn't have any air support. So when that air support started coming in, it was completely unopposed. And yeah, two other Chinese regiments were supposed to be attacking, but they somehow got lost. There were some mountains nearby. They were probably sleeping there. Yeah. And
oh, Jesus. Can you imagine you're just on like the wrong side of the mountain? You just hear like pop, pop.
Yeah, pop.
You're
pop,
like,
pop, pop.
Fuck.
A big ass airplane flies over you. Like, oh shit.
And you see it dropping napalm on the other side of the mountain.
Yeah, like,
you're like,
we're lost.
yeah, well, we're just going to keep going this way and act like we don't know where we
Yeah.
are.
So, as with any war, there is always going to be some variation in the numbers that are reported.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's super important to talk about because the winner's always going to make it look better for them.
Yeah.
Even if it's not on purpose. The loser will always say, "Oh, it wasn't that bad."
We didn't have that many there. That's
Exactly.
why we won. Yeah.
So, of course, the official Chinese, especially 1950s communist China numbers,
Yeah.
those are heavily influenced.
The numbers also coming out by influence from fucking Soviet Russia.
Exactly. So it's hard to put
the anti-red fucking sentiment U.S.
So it's so difficult to get accurate numbers here. But I'll trust the UN sources on the UN casualties.
That's fair.
At least. So the UN side had officially 51 deaths, 250 wounded, 42 MIA.
Damn.
They estimate that the Chinese side had 2,000 killed and 3,000 wounded, which kind of lines up with how many troops were in the
Feels like it
area
adds up.
and how disorganized they were.
And the U.S. is like, we killed 2 million of them,
Yeah,
and
3
we had 5 people,
Yeah, exactly. So,
and one of them died.
but
Like, shut the fuck up.
the Chinese casualties said like 200. So
Really?
yeah, which is completely ridiculous.
It was basically completely inverted.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they had like 2,000 people die, but we only had 200. We just pulled back.
Yeah, and because of this really rose morale and made the Chinese look to the UN eyes like a pretty weak opponent. Like, we could, like, with good planning, we can really stomp these guys.
Oh,
So
my buddy told me they dropped napalm and they only managed to kill 200 people. Wow, fucking get it together. Like,
what? No, we dropped the napalm.
yeah, no, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Is it because were you saying that
We
it
dropped
was
the
making?
napalm. It made the Chinese
the US
look weak.
did. I
Yeah.
thought you were saying that the Chinese were looking at it as
No,
the
no.
UN was weak.
No, other way
because
around.
of how they released the numbers.
Other way around.
Other way around.
Yeah, the UN army was like, wow, these guys aren't an
Okay.
unstoppable machine. Let's do this. And it really slowed down the momentum enough that it almost directly led to the armistice over 2 years later.
Jesus.
Because it was so... It really stopped that. Like, they were able to start... They saw the Chinese advance and started Operation Killer, which is not very creative, but basically it's an operation of how many Chinese troops can we actually just murder?
Jesus.
That was the whole goal of the operation. It was kill as many troops as possible. And then Operation Ripper, which was very similar.
Goddamn. Sorry for that misunderstanding.
No, you're good. You're good. I was like, wait, no, we dropped them. Yeah. So, but it was able to kind of slow that advance, and it made it so that slingshotting pattern was kind of lessened. Because before that, like the North was able to go all the way before the intervention, basically all the way over. Then with the UN intervention, they pushed all the way north. And then at that point, they were all pretty much at the line, and they were only able to kind of slingshot not nearly as far as they did before on either side. So it was a big event in this, in this war. So General Ridgway later spoke of this battle because he was involved. Yeah, by telephone.
yeah.
And
on a loudspeaker.
On a loudspeaker, yeah, on a radio. So he said, these troops in early February of 1951 sustained two of the severest attacks experienced during the entire Korean campaign. Twice isolated far in advance of the general battle line, twice completely surrounded in near 0-degree weather, they repelled repeated assaults by day and night by vastly superior numbers of Chinese infantry. They were finally relieved by an armored column from the United States 1st Cavalry Division in as daring and dramatic an operation as the war provided. So, you can tell he knows how to kind of talk it up.
Yeah.
But this was a huge deal, what these people did. Like, that's horrific to be just, we're behind enemy lines now. Good fucking luck.
Yeah, behind enemy lines and how fucking outnumbered they were.
Yeah, I can't imagine just what they were thinking.
Yeah,
in those moments, and
they
I
were
can
thinking,
never
throw your fucking every grenade you find. Throw it.
Really, it's like we're gonna die anyway.
If it's a rock that looks like a grenade, throw it. Even if it's one of those cool geodes.
Yeah, even if it's really cool looking.
Don't keep it. Throw it.
I also found that there was a message intercepted from the Chinese that was intercepted about this event.
Oh.
And as it was translated, it said, at 1600, more than 20 enemy tanks coming to reinforce Chipyong-ni from the direction of Koksu-ri, which was another town, I think, surprised us by being almost at the door of the regimental command post before they were discovered, seriously threatened the flanks and rear of the 2nd Battalion. In the conduct of the entire campaign, or the battle command, we have underestimated the enemy. In view of their past characteristics in battle, we expected them to flee at Chipyong-ni.
Yeah.
After the enemy at Hoengsung was annihilated. That, as they were advancing, they just wiped out other defensive lines.
Damn.
We have been taught a lesson at the expense of bloodshed. That was the official report from the Chinese.
Wow.
It was, we underestimated them and we got fucked up.
That is not something you would imagine would come out during this time.
Imagine Mao hearing that.
Yeah.
Like,
Jesus.
And then
it's just wild with how much propaganda that goes on, especially during
during this time
Post-World
period,
War II, Korean War, Cold War, all of that. It was just like such a fucking machine by everybody, and for them to go, yeah, we fucked up and we underestimated them.
Well,
it's like,
here's something to think about.
You admitted
you admit this
up?
shit. Well,
Whoa.
I can tell you for sure that this message never made it back to mainland China. I can guarantee this was sent to a higher up, and then it was sent secretly into China, and then they propagandized it. Like this, it was just.
Make sense.
It's good to see that this is before most of that propaganda was actually applied to it. It was just the propaganda as it affected the people.
Yeah.
So, really interesting for the time period, and as you said, the propaganda machine that was rolling out to actually be able to kind of lift the covers a little bit and see a little bit.
Get to see what they're actually fucking saying.
Yeah, and that you don't see that pretty much ever after this.
Wow.
So, got to do honorable mention. There was one person during this defense, this Gettysburg, as it was called, who got the Medal of Honor.
Oh.
His name was, Walliam. It's William S. Sitman. He was a machine gun sector leader of M Company. So the guys who, when there was a breach, they kind of filled in. So he brought the machine guns. He was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor because he threw himself onto a grenade, saving 5 lives.
Jesus. It was a French grenade.
It was a French grenade, though. Yeah, they really
dropped.
fucked it up.
It was dropped, and he was like, fuck.
Yeah, they threw the pin and dropped the grenade. But yeah, it's a crazy thing, and this kind of opens the door for me to maybe do a couple more Korean War kind of events, because I don't know, I haven't felt like I really understood enough of just what the war was before researching for this episode. So I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this really wasn't in a lot of media. Like I say that, but I started this off talking about MASH. That's a very, one-sided, exception to me saying that. But really, I didn't learn about the Korean War in high school. I didn't learn about the Korean War anywhere.
Despite MASH being one of the most watched TV shows of all time.
Yeah. But they don't really get into the war. They don't get into why they're there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fucking TV show. Like, it's
exactly.
Totally fair.
But I do think just learning about this war adds a lot of context to that show.
Yeah.
And how it relates to Vietnam, like why they drew that connection initially and all that stuff. So, maybe a couple more. Maybe a couple more. I mean, not a ton of events happened, but this one really stood out to me.
Easy.
Yeah, easy.
Not bad. Good stuff.
And the name wrote itself. It's called the Korean Gettysburg. Like, come on.
How could
I
it not
had to
be
do this
called that?
event.
Fuck. Oh, shit. Well, not bad.
Yeah,
enjoyable. And
we didn't make fun of the deceased.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I threw my thumb on a grenade. We got to live up to our reviews, so.
Yeah, God. I got napalmed. Well, fucking.
Sorry.
As usual, if you guys would ever like to support us, check out our Patreon. We give you an extra exclusive episode every month. We have a 35 sloppy seconds or something.
Something like that. We're doing pretty good.
There were a bunch that we released on Patreon during the season break that were not really released to the public. So if you enjoyed those, by all means, go check us out at patreon.com/pointsopressure. AJ's also working on a series called Voices.
I actually am now. So
and we also have a free tier that we will be rolling out a few, every once in a while, we'll give you a free exclusive episode. So subscribe on there. Keep your notifications and emails and shit up to date. Patrons, make sure your addresses are up to date on there. We've got some things rolling out in February, March that you guys should make sure to keep your eyes on. You got those names?
Yeah, so we've got, the board, which we've previously mentioned. Minnie D, Thomas, and Toddle Waddle. Thank you guys so much. Seriously.
We appreciate you guys. Holy shit.
Anytime we need to, replace equipment or anything like that.
Replace a host, whatever.
Replace a host. It comes from you guys.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got Abby, AJ's third nut, Kitty Titties, Nordic Thunder, Weston, Dark Runner, D's Nuts, G-Dog, Hayden, Laravo, and Lindo. Thank you all so much. We really appreciate it. You guys are, enabling us in a good way.
Really, though. You're not helping that we don't shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You let us talk way too much on fucking Mondays to you that the rest of the week we don't shut the fuck up. So, yeah. Yep. Our wives and girlfriends, all 10 of them each.
Yeah, we are Utah.
But we really, really, really do appreciate you guys. And if you don't follow us on Instagram currently,
do it.
You better fucking do it, or I'm going to hack your shit and you're going to have to see my butthole as your background. Follow us on Instagram. They work their ass off on there. It's really, really well done. And because of that, you can tell that neither AJ or I run it.
Yeah.
But yeah, follow our Instagram. Fucking post our posts to your stories. Share it with friends. Send shit around. We would really, really appreciate it. A lot of work has gone into that. And also follow us on Threads now, I guess.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
That's been a thing. And so this is what the conversation happened. Our manager made the Threads a while ago, and then out of nowhere we just started getting followers on it. I don't know if that's any of you or if that's robots or whatever. And then I should post on here. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I got a notification.
Yeah,
it was
and then you got a notification,
they posted on Threads, and I was like, what the fuck is that?
But
yeah, check out our Instagram. It would be really, really appreciated. And just like fucking everything on there. And if you guys ever have any, fucking
Riley's
shop.
Shop.pointsofpressure.com.
Yeah, there you go. I was like, I wasn't sure which one it
Official
was.
merch store.
Yeah. Also our subreddit, r/pressure points.
If we make one sale that isn't me, I will do a giveaway.
There you go. But yeah, if you guys ever have any suggestions for books, movies, TV shows, episode ideas, if you just want to send fucking memes along, anything at all, send it to us on Instagram, post it to our fucking subreddit, or feel free to email us at ppdnaj@gmail.com, or go to our website, pointsopressure.com, and hit the contact us page and leave us a voicemail. We'll catch you guys next fucking Monday.
I guess the song's over.